Welcome to Mental Health Momentum, a Silicon Slopes podcast. I'm Dr. David Morgan. I'm a licensed psychologist and the director of mental health awareness at Silicon Slopes. And on this podcast, we talk about mental health issues in business and beyond, and we look for solutions. I'm going to introduce my guest to you today, and I totally did not ask how to pronounce your last name, so I'm going to guess here. Jo Dailami?
So close, but no. It's Dailami.
Dailami.
It's a big one.
Okay.
So, yeah.
This is Jo Dailami, by the way, otherwise known as Jo Dailami. No, Jo Dailami. Let me tell you about Jo. She's a speaker, advocate, and entrepreneur focused on helping women reclaim their voice, power, and sense of self. Her work centers on challenging the unconscious beliefs and societal conditioning that keep women playing small emotionally, financially, and physically. Jo is an active volunteer with A Bolder Way Forward, where she works with the Gender Pay Gap Spoke to advance financial empowerment as a core pillar of women's well-being. She is also the co-founder of
Dailami.
Dailami.
There you go.
Sorry. Dailami. I thought I'm not going to have to say this last name again.
And here it is.
Dailami, a functional food brand rooted in the belief that nourishment is an act of self-love and should support mental clarity, physical strength, and self-trust, not add more pressure, noise, or punishment. Through her advocacy, entrepreneurship, and lived experience as a mother and leader, Jo brings grounded, compassionate, and practical voice to conversations about women's empowerment and mental health. I love this, and thank you, Jo, for being here.
Thank you for having me. Thank you.
I came to know Jo just a couple months ago when she was doing a presentation here at Slopes talking about gender pay gap.
Yeah.
And this is something, not just gender pay gap, but we had Dr. Susan Madsen on the podcast a while ago, and she's part of Bolder Way Forward, kind of the big spoke in A Bolder Way Forward. Yes?
That's right. That's right.
I love talking about this, basically just empowerment of women, because there's just so much natural power and talent and ability, but just for whatever reason, and in the history of the world, there's been this, I don't know, whatever's happened to kind of relegate you all to kind of this second tier status. And I'm like, oh my gosh, it is so past due that we do something about that. And part of it is, I think, changing cultural expectations, but part of it is working directly with the women and having them think differently about things, right?
Absolutely.
That's where it has to start.
It's a massive part of it. It's the work I've had to do myself. So I'm well familiar with what the world gave me and then what I had to do with that.
Yes.
You know?
Yes.
So.
As I think about that, just in my role as a psychologist, a mental health perspective, is people come in and they complain so much about the hand they've been dealt, and they not realizing there's something they can do about that. And that's the empowering piece, is saying, sure, we all come with something, right? Our natural liabilities, or just the conditions of society that might provide some natural limitations to things that we think we can do. But we have to decide, okay, what am I going to do about this? What changes am I going to make? And I think it's the good news and the bad news. It's the good news because it's empowering. It's the bad news is because the buck stops with you.
It requires you.
Exactly.
Yep,
you can't just wait for something else to change. You have to do something different.
But you can.
Of course.
And that is, as you mentioned, the great part about it.
Yes.
And it's very much part of my message, because you can. And you want to, once you get a taste of it, you want to keep going, because it's profound, the impact it can have on your life. Profound.
So tell me about your journey in that space. Like, how did you get from where you were to where you are now, and why you're interested in this? And
a million steps. But my experience with mental health, if you imagine it as a mountain that we all have to climb, I've been at the very bottom, maybe like what's right below the bottom, and now I'm closer to the top. It's not that I don't have pain or anxiety or fear. It's that I know how to hold it and be with it versus running from it and escaping it. When I was really young girl, I experienced big T trauma. And so that framed childhood, adolescence, my 20s. I was, when the worst case scenario happens, it's not just possible, it's probable, and you're waiting, for that harm to come. And it's a very terrifying way to live. And I was truly in a PTSD state and a very, very fearful state. And in my late 20s, I hit an intersection of, I tried so many times to do life different. The only tools I had were harmful, destructive. They help, but then they don't.
Okay.
And then they make it worse.
Yeah.
And I was at that place. And it was, I can't move forward. I can't live this way. And I can't do it different. And I knew I couldn't do it different. I didn't have the capacity or the capability. By a force bigger than me, my perspective changed. I'm talking this much.
Which is all it takes.
That's all it took.
Yeah.
And it just was a voice that said, you can't do it different. We're not going to pretend, right? We know it. What if someone could help? What if someone could give you some skills to go into this pain instead of running and face it? And I stepped on that path so unsure of what to do next, but I stepped on, and I haven't stepped off since. And I have been in a, however many year pursuit, healing that and entering into a more empowered life.
Yes.
Where, as you mentioned, I decide what my life looks like. So I'm so thankful for that 28-year-old me, how brave she was, because the work she did and the work I've done, like I get to live like this.
Yeah.
And I feel so compelled to share that. I'm not saying my life was worse than anybody's. I don't mean that.
Sure.
But what I can say with complete confidence is no matter how bad it is, there's another side.
Yeah.
And if you're willing, you can have it. It's yours. Yeah.
The way out is the same for
Mm-hmm.
everybody. And I don't mean that it takes the exact same path, but it's the process that you went through where you said, I can't do this on my own. And in almost every case, when people have been affected by significant traumas like you referred to, yeah, you're going to need some sort of help.
Mm-hmm.
Someone else outside of you is going to have to help you reframe things and consider things differently than you had before. But that puts you on the path, and then you take every step with a guide. It says walk here, do this, but you have to do the work the whole way. And like you said, like climbing a mountain, then you get up halfway the mountain, you're like, oh, you look down, this is amazing. Look at what I've accomplished to this point. And I love that you said as well that doesn't mean the absence of any sort of interpersonal difficulty, right? Challenge or anxiety or depression or things like that. Sometimes we think of mental health, I don't know why we think this, but we think, okay, if I've got mental health issues, I just have to fix them, and then I never have them again.
Yeah.
Like, what are we talking about?
Wrong.
Yeah, wrong, right?
Yeah,
It would
totally.
be like, okay, I had my first cold when I was 6. I got over that,
Yeah.
and so I never have to have a cold again
We're
the rest
good
of
on
my
colds.
life. Exactly.
Yeah.
Whew, that's great. I don't ever have to cold. How ridiculous is that? Because there's always things that are going to happen that will challenge us, but we become more resilient over time, especially if people take steps like you have. So that way, the same things that used to knock us on our can before, they might, knock us a little bit, but not quite as tough as it was. And then sometimes there are big things that come around that really do knock us down again, but then we learn. And we get stronger, and we know the path that we take to get past that. So that's one of the things I love. And one of the reasons I started this podcast is I wanted to have examples of individuals, successful individuals like yourself, who were willing to kind of share part of their story that got them there, so that when someone says, oh, well, I can't be successful because I've had, big T trauma, but then here's Jo.
Yeah.
And they can say, well, look, she had big T trauma, and here she is.
Yeah.
Right. Doing amazing things, speaking to groups of women, helping them. I loved when I saw you talking to the women, because you could tell that it was about the gender pay gap, especially in the question and answer session. And I'm a psychologist, so I'm, looking for this stuff, but I could sense the uncertainty in a lot of their voices, and just they're thinking like, well, who am I to do this? But your responses were so confident, and to help them see that, I think that's what they need. They need to say, you're capable of doing this.
We all need that.
Yes.
And I've received that. And I'm so thankful for people like you who give this platform, because I've done almost all modalities of healing, but talk therapy being a big one of them, and a huge one of them. But another one is listening to people's stories, because in my perspective, I thought if someone was successful, it's because they had it easier.
Right.
Somehow they're more equipped than me. They have something I just don't have. And I can't even access it. And so it's just, oh, well, move on, don't dream.
Right.
And I think that it was so helpful for me to hear people that shared being in the trenches of life and clawing their way up and knowing that's actually what it takes. And laying in bed and feeling the edge of your nervous system shocking you before you walk into something the next day and going, that won't stop me. Right? It's not the lack of the shock. It's going, and I'm still going to go. And hearing people say it is very helpful to know that we can do it too.
Yeah.
It has been a huge part of my path.
It reminds me of my favorite anecdote. And the only, I don't know if it's probably just credited to this. There was a show called The West Wing, which was on many years ago.
Yes.
A political drama. And one of the characters is talking to another, and he tells this anecdote. He says there's this woman walking down the street, and she falls into a hole, and it's so deep she can't get out of it. And so she's yelling to the people that are passing by. She's like, help, help, I'm stuck in this hole. And her doctor walks by, and she says, Doc, I'm stuck in this hole. So the doctor writes a prescription on the pad and throws it in the hole. And then her life coach walks by, and she says, hey, I'm stuck in this hole. And life coach writes down some inspirational thoughts and throws them in the hole. And then her best friend walks by. And she's like, Jane, I'm stuck in this hole. And Jane jumps in. And then she looks at Jane. She's like, what are you doing? Are you stupid? Now we're both stuck down here. And Jane says to her, yeah, but I've been down here before and I know the way out. And I love that, right? Because it's that lived experience, that path that you've walked, the mountain that you've climbed to get to where you're at. And then you can say, hey, I know how to get this far up the mountain.
Yeah.
And so let me show you the way to get up there. And then you look forward to the people that are further up than you, right? You're like, hey, how do I get past this? They say, oh, well, you do this because I've got past that before. So I think all of those experiences, even the traumatic experiences, ultimately can help us, I don't know, just become better and more knowledgeable and more authentic even in the ways that we can help people. So I love that. I love that you're leading women and doing that. So how did that become an interest for you?
Yeah. So as you mentioned, I specifically work within the gender pay gap.
Yeah.
And it became an area of interest because I experienced it. I did not experience discrimination. That's not what I experienced. I experienced what is referred to as the motherhood penalty. And that is what many women have as their reality when they return to work from becoming a mother. And the stat is if a woman leaves for 5 years, it's about a 42% step back.
Wow.
Financially? And even level of
wow.
the position you're in. But yes, 42% back financially.
Just for 5 years?
For 5 years.
That's like one child.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So if a woman has 4 or 5 children, she's gone for 20 years.
Right.
Yeah.
And the problem isn't just the initial step back, it's that they never really regain it. So it just puts them so far back on something so important as our money.
Right.
That we get for the work we do. You know, this is our financial security and how we contribute to our family and our homes. When I re-entered motherhood, I re-entered with some big beliefs and deep conditioning around who women are, who they're supposed to be, who they're allowed to be, and who mothers are, who they're supposed to be, who they're allowed to be. I believed that mother was a 4-letter word in corporate America, and that I could be a mother, but there could be no evidence. Do not bring that here.
I don't know pictures of your kids on your desk or anything
you better not have a doctor's appointment.
Right.
A lost shoe that made you 5 minutes late.
Right.
Do not bring that here. You know, those are excuses. You're distracted. There wasn't in my belief system at that time. My ambition has always been big. Even when I stepped away from corporate America, when I was home with the babes, I still did contracted work. I built a business, you know. I've always been ambitious and always wanted a big career because I love it. I love it so much. But I did not believe those two worlds could exist. I can't be the mom I want to be and have the career I want to have. And so I self-selected out of the pay that I was making before, the role I was making before. And I went into a position that was 10 years prior, you know, title wise, and 35 to 40% backwards financially. And this was after 3 years of leaving for my children. I spent 3 years in that role. And in that role, finally, I was going, give me more. I'll do that. Give me that. And I ended up sitting in a position where I'm like, I'm doing all this.
Right.
Because I want to.
Sure.
And I love it. But I started looking around and going, what am I doing? And I started doing the work that I think is the hardest for women to do, and that was acknowledging my own value and saying, I know what I bring to the table. I know I'm good at this. I know that I do it well. I know it adds value to this organization, and I know I deserve this pay. And I really started working on my worthiness, my value, my beliefs. I started expanding into possibility and going, maybe there's an organization that will let me be as big as I want to be and a mom.
Yeah.
And as I did that work, my reality started shifting and I got everything I wanted. It was not easy. It was hard. And it requires a lot of faith because the evidence and my direct experience was saying I was wrong to believe those things. But I ended up getting it. And I think that's so much part of my message for women, for everybody, but specifically for women. So much of the gender pay gap issue is the lack of a woman being seen and valued in the world. We have to see it ourselves first. Yep. And I did not. And I had to go deep inside to find it. But again, as we were talking initially, you do that work and things start to change in a positive way for your life. And so that is very much my message with A Bolder Way Forward Pay Gap is seeing yourself and valuing yourself and watching it all kind of shift.
I love that because it places the emphasis and the responsibility on the individual.
Yeah.
Right? Because on the one hand, you could say, well, the gender pay gap, that just exists. There's nothing I can do about it. I mean, I could run for Congress, write legislation or something like that. But you're saying there's a much simpler explanation, a much simpler way forward. And it's by changing the way that you value yourself. And that will automatically start to open doors. And like you said, reality changes, right? You see the world differently when you see yourself differently. Why do you think it's so difficult for women to see their own value?
Yeah.
And you said it, not me. So that's why I'm
No, I got an answer for you.
Okay.
I mean, I think if you look at the way women are often conditioned, almost all of it is pushing her to receive all value from outside of herself. What does someone else think? Am I pleasing them? Do I look a certain way? Am I talking a certain way? Am I entering a room the way I should? Am I taking up too much space? Am I being grateful? It's all about, it has nothing to do with the woman. And I can look at my experience looking back as a child. I can't remember one conversation where someone said, what do you love? What do you like? What do you enjoy? What do you think? What do you want? I did not have those conversations. I was very specifically taught I would go to college not to find myself, not to establish a career or a sense of self in any way. It was to be chosen, to be picked. Okay. All of my value was someone choosing me. Yeah. And can you imagine what that does to your mental health?
You have those thoughts over and over for 20 years, of course.
Nonstop.
Yeah.
Do you like me? Do you think I'm enough? Do you see me? Do you call me valuable? I think if you lined up 10 women in this room and asked them, what do you want?
Most of them would be able to tell you.
I don't think a lot of them have an answer for that because they've never even thought about it. Yeah. Their job is a secondary role often to, in my experience, to a husband, to children. Right. It was self-sacrificial. Anything that was about me or my joy or my excitement or my passion or what I wanted to do in the world was completely selfish and harmful to my child. So what I experience now at this stage of my life, joy, excitement, passion, connection, love, all exists because of the connection I have to myself. Yes. All of it. And that's the complete opposite of anxiety, depression, fear. If you want this, you got to go in, right? And find what lights me up, what thrills me, What do I love? What do I want to leap out of the bed to go do? And I think that women are not often encouraged to think in that way.
Right. Yes. And I love the juxtaposition you had there between, kind of the joy and happiness and then the anxiety and depression. So many times in mental health, when we have those negative, emotional experiences, we think, I have to go work on that, right? I have to engage in anxiety reduction strategies, or I have to engage in whatever cognitive stuff to manage my depression. And that can certainly be helpful. However, there's also that opposite thing of saying, well, what if I just increase the amount of joy in my life, right? And or what if I increase the amount of confidence in my life? What if I did things, what if I didn't even worry about the anxiety or depression, but just said, I'm just going to focus on me for now and what I can do to become happier or that sort of thing. I get it's kind of splitting hairs at some point, but I do think that there's more empowerment that way, thinking I'm going to do something that I want to do for myself, as opposed to I'm going to go over here and work on this liability that I have, right? Because I shouldn't be depressed. People say I should be happier. And then you're back to that same old nonsense of what does everyone expect of me? What does society expect of me? Instead of what do I want to chart for my future? What course do I want to chart? And I think that as you increase that self-confidence, all these other things, they start to lose energy. Totally. There's only so much energy we have on any given day. Emotional energy, I tell people this all the time, emotional energy is capital, and you only have so much all day long, so you have to choose where you want to apply it. If you want to apply it to worry and sadness, you can, but that means it's a zero sum. That means that is less available for joy or happiness or self-fulfillment or whatever it is. So you have to make a conscious decision, just like you would budget your money and say, this is where I'm going to spend it. And I think if we spend it on things that are kind of more self-beneficial, then automatically those other things are weaker because they have no fuel. Yeah. You're not giving them anything. I love that.
I couldn't agree more. And it can be little things, but that comes in self-discovery. Yes. It's like for me to stick my face in the sunshine for 5 minutes a day. It doesn't have to be, these huge things. You can get there, but I think exactly what you're saying. There's only so much room. And if we're filling with the things that we just love, but we have to know what they are first.
Right.
We have to know what they are, and we have to be connected to that. Oh, that felt good. I like that. That's exciting. I just got more energy when I did that thing. I just lit up when I did that thing. And the more attuned to that, the more we can do it. And the more good, the less bad.
And I think that journey of self-discovery you're talking about is, I don't know that most human beings do it very well at all, but I think you're right, just because of cultural expectations that women tend to do it less than anybody. But it can be done. And I think the things should be small. I think they should, like, sun in your face for 5 minutes, or getting whatever, treating yourself to something every week, or whatever it is, something that brings you joy. Because the smaller they are, the easier you can repeat them and the more consistently you can do them. And that is where the power comes. It's not just getting a sun in your face once, on the spring solstice, something like that. That's, once a year, that's great, but that's not going to get you very far. You're talking about something you can do every single day that does not take a whole lot of time, that takes zero money. But it's something you're going to do for yourself, where you're saying, I am important enough for this. My wife, almost every day of her life, goes to McDonald's and gets a Diet Coke, because McDonald's has the best Diet Coke. Evidently, I don't know. I don't drink Diet. I know. Yeah. And it's this whole science. But anyway, so because every once in a while I will say, hey, I'll go get your Diet Coke, but she doesn't want me to, because it's a whole ritual. She drives there, she gets it, she sits in there. That's when she responds to her Marco Polos, and it's just like this little 30-minute thing that she does in the mornings that she loves. Yeah. That's like renewing for her, and because I thought, well, I can get it, but that's not the point. Yeah. The point is she's doing something for herself, right? Yeah. And once I realized that, then I stopped offering, because I'm like, oh, no. Yeah. You go do whatever you need to, and, but yeah, I think that is, that's so critical, and it's so doable for everybody too. Yeah. And that's where it starts. And then I think these big, huge problems that people are looking at, like you even said, even your career, like, oh my gosh, how do I do this? How do I reverse that 43%, downturn in things? Well, it starts by Joe becoming a different person. Yeah. Right? And then things change from there.
Yeah,
Oh,
I think it's also tied, we're saying putting in the good and there's not as much room for the bad, but all of those things like what your wife is doing is also signaling self-love.
yes,
It's
yes,
saying I matter
yes.
and how I feel matters and I want to feel good. And so I'm going to go do something that makes me feel good. And then it just switches on parts in our brain
Yeah.
that shifts our identity in a positive way as being a valuable, worthy person that we love ourselves, It's awesome.
I love that. Yeah. Yeah. She used to say, because the large Diet Coke was only 99 cents. And then so that was
Yeah.
the greatest deal. But then it went up to $1.50. And
Oh,
she was
no.
kind of like, well, I don't know if I'm going to do this anymore. I said, well, you can decide,
Yeah.
But it wasn't about the money. I guess
Right.
if they're like $10 at some point, it might be a little
Yeah.
trickier.
Throw
But
the 50 cents
yeah,
at it.
exactly.
It's worth it.
Yeah, totally,
Yeah,
right?
it's
Because it's
worth it.
beyond, it's
Yeah.
more than that, right? And like you said, the ritual itself has less meaning than the fact that you are engaging in that act of self-love, which has that implicit message of, I have value.
Yes.
I have value. My needs are important.
Yes.
And I think the more that anybody learns that message, I think just the happier we become. And I love that.
Yeah, totally. Totally. So good.
Jo, thank you so much for coming and talking with me today, for sharing your personal story. I really appreciate that. And just showing what people can do, what women can become. That's amazing. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for having me. It was such an honor. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And thanks everyone for listening today. Remember that change starts with you, and together we can increase our mental health momentum.